is developing the specific capacity, is responsible for the maintenance of it, and then for the deployment. The Commission has a decision power when it comes to the deployment time. Here on this map, it's already from 2022, but you could see the different type of rescue capabilities that exist in the different member states. And just to finish, few maps that you will be able to look in detail probably afterwards, because they have quite many details on the different recent operations. So recently, the response to the Russian war on Ukraine is one of the biggest civil protection response operation, with different type of response equipment teams that is being sent to Ukraine, as well as medical evacuation operation. And by each of the country, you can see what type of equipment was sent. Here, it's medical evacuation operations from Ukraine. This is a map from the end of March, where we were already at 2,312 operations. The countries in green are the one from which the operations took place, and in blue to which countries the Ukrainian patients were sent for treatment. And just as a last map, want to show that it's not only a response to emergencies in Europe, but also outside, a response to different emergencies with some numbers of a response since 2013. This is the end of my presentation. Here in the end, you have the webpage of DG ECHO and our functional mailbox in case you'd have any specific questions, and I will stay for the rest of the presentation. And I know that there will be some time for questions that I will be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Joanna, for your intervention. It was super clear and interesting. So, as anticipated, we will give the word to Véronique Quéon-Klein from ERA to complete also some part of what Joanna just mentioned. So, what is ERA? Véronique, can you share the screen and tell us a bit more?
Yes, thank you. So, let's see. Choose to share. Window. I think you will have to help me because I haven't worked with Zoom very often, so. I don't know what to choose. I mean,
so you want me to share the screen, or you want? Normally there is share screen on the bottom.
Yeah, but I don't find. So this.
Okay, so maybe I can share the presentation if you. It's okay. It's working.
This is the presentation now, right?
Yeah.
Sharing, share screen, windows.
No, I think you.
Okay.
Please do it. Okay, so I'm Véronique Quéon-Klein from HERA, and I am going to, as it's a new agency, it's the youngest agency, not agency, DG in the European Commission. So we were established in September 21. It was the result of COVID and the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic. We had two main lessons: that Europe has to be better prepared for this kind of pandemics and health emergencies. And the second was that the coordination by the EU Commission was a real added value. And especially even if we had some difficulties and some delays, we still the vaccine purchasing and distribution has been a kind of success story for the EU Commission, because if we imagine that the different EU member states would have been the vaccines at different times, that would probably have been the end of the European Union. So so first slide. So here you can see Hera's mission. It's really important to understand that we cover therapeutics, we cover medical devices and other MCM like personal protective equipment. And we manage the whole chain from the data information intelligence gathering up to the distribution of the MCMs out of the from purchasing, joint or stockpiling, and I will come to this later. It's important to understand that we have to work with many DGs together and also agencies. So we work with DG. So in stockpiling, we work closely with DG ECHO. We work closely with DG Sante and RTD for research, and GROW for monitoring the supply chain of certain medical countermeasures. So we work very narrow with EMA and also with ECDC. Here you see the main tasks, and you see we have two modes, the preparedness mode and the crisis mode. In the crisis mode, the emergency framework regulation is is activated, and in crisis mode we have a new governance. There's a new governance structure, the Health Crisis Board, which is composed of member states, and where we have to work very in close cooperation for the different actions. So you see in preparedness mode, we have this stockpiling activity, which I will describe a little later. And in crisis mode and also in preparedness mode, we have the monitoring of relevant medical countermeasures. There is also EU FAB, and EU FAB is, I'm just going to mention it. It's the purpose of EU FAB is to reserve manufacturing capacity in the EU EEA that can be quickly deployed and cover the time of before producers are able to ramp up their own manufacturing capacity in vaccines. And EU FAB covers mRNA, protein, and vector-based vaccines. So, and there is, so please, next slide. So I'm going to talk, just quickly show the supply. It's still work in progress. It's a very challenging work. We for the supply chain mapping, we started with a threat category prioritization, and we cover the pathogens with pandemic potential, CBRN threats, and antimicrobial resistances. And so we had a whole process with the member states from developing a huge catalog of MCMs and then making a prioritization so that we have different lists for different purposes. And right now we are piloting HERA and EMA an exercise on critical antibiotics because there have been, as you know, shortages. It was very often in the press. So this is in this is in sozusagen in preparedness mode. And then next slide, please. You will see it's a real challenge because I mean the supply chain network of certain therapeutics is really complex, and so we are going to have to focus on really critical therapeutics, MTMs, where we can really monitor the supply chain. But this is work in progress, and there's a lot of the challenge is to get the data. Next slide, please. It's so this is the intelligence gathering. Imagine it's all defined in our emergency framework regulation. So we will with EMA we will in a crisis develop a list of crisis specific MCMs which will have to be monitored, and in crisis the national competent authorities will help us to get all these informations and data. Yeah, so it's very difficult and it's very challenging, but we are working on it, and so I think this will be one of the very important actions which make a change for the next crisis. So then next slide, please. Here we come to the stockpiling. So there have been 2 calls. HERA and DG ECHO work closely together, and we had a call last year. It's a call which is just going to the governments of the member states and the one all the ones who are who participate in rescEU. So it's Joanna can maybe mention all the countries, but it's the EU, EEA, and then we have Joanna, and I think 7 more countries like Turkey. She presented it in the last presentation. So the first call was on CBRN countermeasures, and the current call, which is coming to an end on May 11th, is about all 3 main for all threats, for all main threats from HERA. So it's with agents with pandemic potential, antimicrobial resistances, and CBRN. So in the last slide, I just want to highlight there is this dynamic purchasing system, which HERA has set up this system last year to address the needs of member states and commission in joint procurement of PPEs, personal protective equipment, and it enables companies, so PPE suppliers wishing to offer products to pre-qualify and register within a system, and the pre-qualification phase will remain open until May 26. So maybe you are, it's not in my unit, so I'm not the expert on it, but I put the link in the presentation. So if you are interested, you could contact them. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronique. I think it was really interesting also for the Reservist partner to listen to the presentation and to see already some similarity also with what has been done in the project. Where I personally appreciate this dual modes with the preparedness and crisis mode that we reflect, and it was also quite basic of the project. So thanks, Joanna and Veronique, for these 2 presentations that really put a great context policy side, I would like now to move on to what is the Reservist project and what we call industry preparedness. We will see how company and supply chain maybe can be done a bit differently when a crisis happen. So for this, we will have 3 presentations from the Reservist partner. First, Frederic, after Alessandro from STAM, and after we have a presentation from Anna from Nardi. So Frederic, if you can share the screen and let us know all what is Reservist and what we have been doing during this 2 years and a half of projects.
So, hello. Can you see my screen for my presentation?
Yes, it's working.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, hello everybody. My name is Frederik Goethals. I'm working at Centexbel, and Centexbel is a textile and plastic research center located in Belgium. And Centexbel is also the coordinator of the Reservist project, which I will now present. And I will also focus a little bit during my presentation on how this project can help to be better prepared in the future to handle health crisis. So the Reservist project is about repurposing manufacturing lines for providing medical and other products and services in case of spike in demand times. So why are we doing this project? Well, I think it's clear that the recent COVID pandemic demonstrated that a sudden lack of medical products and services can cause disaster situations in all European countries. So that's why we have set up a group of European companies and institutes. So we formed a group and we developed a solution to prevent such situations in the future. So what is our solution or concept? Well, we have set up Reservist cells, and these cells can, in time of crisis, they can be activated within 96 hours, so very quickly, and they can switch then to the manufacturing of medical products and services that are spiking in demand. So meaning that in a normal situation, these products are not manufactured by the companies involved in the Reservist network, because they are too expensive. But when there's a high need, a high demand, they can stop their daily production and produce the necessary products. So these cells consist of a backbone network of core companies to do the manufacturing and testing of the products. The cell also consists of an extended network for further capacities like packaging, distribution, customization of the products. And we also have developed a digital coordination platform to make sure that all the companies are connected and can communicate very quickly. The aim with this concept is to focus more on capacity and less of having high stocks of these products. So here you can see how it looks about. So we have our network, so a lot of companies in there. When there's a kind of trigger to start up the production, we activate cells, and we have already installed 4 types of cells. So one is dealing with textile protective equipment, one is dealing with ventilators, another one can produce disinfection equipment, and we can even supply emergency hospitals. Why these type of materials? Because we knew from the COVID pandemic that these are very crucial to avoid the spreading of diseases. So this is our core network. So we have companies involved, research institutes involved, and even clusters to make sure that everything runs smoothly and that we can do testing and certification of products, and that we are capable of producing all the products in Europe. I already told that we have developed a platform. So what is the Reservist digital platform? It has some main features, and one is that it acts as a marketplace for products, materials, and services. So external customers can order these if there's a spike in demand and they urgently need certain medical products. But besides that, we also have foreseen a kind of forecasting that we know, okay, an emergency happens, so we know that this type of materials will be needed. So we have to think of starting up the production. So we are also better prepared by this forecasting model. So, like I told you, what is the case in a normal situation? The main part of the companies are not producing the products because they are too expensive to produce them in Europe. So they cannot compete in a normal market situation. So they have other activities and that they are doing in a normal situation. So we also have a kind of standby mode and a crisis mode, similar to here more or less. So the cells are sleeping, so they are not activated. But what they are still doing is they are doing a regular assessment to check if they have enough stock of the raw materials to start the production if it's necessary. And they also check if the manufacturing lines are still operational. Then we have a spiking or potential spiking demand, so kind of active mode. And when that is the case, the cells are activated, and that can be done by the forecasting service of the digital platform. So meaning, okay, emergency happened, and we knew from our databases and our forecasting model that there's a need for a certain type of medical product. We can already think of starting up the production to make sure that we can supply it to the end user. Of course, if there's a real order, the cells are also activated. Important there is also that the companies can repurpose their manufacturing lines, or they have manufacturing lines in sleeping mode that can also be activated to make sure that the products can be produced. So, and with our concepts, we will avoid the shortage of medical products in crisis situations, that, like it was the case during the COVID pandemic. But also, we think that we can avoid a huge waste of money and products. For example, last year, the Belgian government had to destroy about 100 million euro of expired medical products. So they had a high stock, but all these products expired, so they had to destroy them. So, and I can imagine that it also happens in other countries. So we hope with focusing more on capacity that we can also reduce some waste of money and products. So what are our products? The most important ones in a big crisis or a health crisis are, of course, you have to protect yourself. So we can offer various types of face mask. Important to say here is that we also looked into alternative products to make this mask, because we knew from the COVID pandemic it was very hard to get the melt-blown filter. So we also looked to alternatives to make sure that we can produce it when certain critical components are not available on the market. We can use some alternative products or raw materials to make sure that we can still offer face masks. We can also offer reusable medical gowns. And here the word reusable is important, because if you can reuse the product, it means that you don't need that many of them. And that can also help to make sure that there are enough for the people that need them. Unfortunately, during a crisis situation or a health crisis, there are also a lot of victims, unfortunately, so we can also offer some body bags to make sure that we can avoid the further spreading of diseases. We can also offer mechanical ventilators, disinfection equipment. Nardi or Anna will tell a bit more about this later, about the development of disinfection equipment. And we can also supply emergency hospitals to increase hospital capacity. Besides the products, we can also offer some services. So we can do certification of medical products. And also here we can give priority to make sure that it's a fast way to certify them. We even develop some alternative test protocols to speed up the process. We also have the service of the situation awareness, so to inform companies that they have to switch to the production of some products, and we can even provide training to show how they can modify their manufacturing lines to make sure that they can even produce other products. So what are the benefits of our concept? First of all, we think we are now better prepared to handle high crises, so by the resilience of our industry. So there will be access to emergency goods. We can give it priority if they are ordered by the platform. It's also easy to order them, very fast delivery. And we will also not ask crazy prices because there is a lack or shortage of these products. So we also promise that, of course, they will be more expensive than normal market situations, but we will not ask crazy prices for them. And also, yeah, the products are manufactured in Europe by our local industries. And this model will also be less expensive than paying for stock keeping. And Alessandro will tell a bit more about potential business models to keep this concept alive. So thank you very much. And if you have some more questions, you can contact me or my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frederick. I think I'm going to take the floor, and I will go for share my screen. Just a second. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, hello everybody. I'm Alessandro.
Yeah,
Sorry?
it's not the presentation mode. You have the visualization
Okay. Sorry, the wrong
screen. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry. How can I change it? Maybe. Sorry for the inconvenience. How can I switch? The same.
It's working. It's working. It's good.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm Alessandro Pietronave from STAM, a small medium enterprise based in Italy. And during the project, the Reservist project, we were in charge of create the proper business model or reflect on how we can create a business model based on the concept that we want to achieve. We have created a so-called paying for preparedness model that is a sort of insurance in which an end user, that can be public authorities, but also private companies such as private hospitals or private health organization, will pay the consortium for a service. The service is to be prepared. I mean, the flow of money after signing a contractual agreement with very specific contractual part about economical and also technical. The manufacturing companies must use the money to be prepared, so to maintain the equipment to produce the products, the materials that they define in the contractual agreement, but also to maintain, for instance, the digital platform that we have developed during the project. However, the paying for preparedness model is divided into parts. The standby mode, as the name you can imagine that this phase is the one in which there is no emergency. At least there is some bad situation that can produce an emergency, but at least there is no emergency. In this case, the public authorities or end user, as we call, are in contact with the interface. The interface is a partner of the Reservist project that is the one that put in contact the end user and the manufacturing company. The interface will just act to inform the various manufacturing companies, but the whole consortium about the emergency and the probability that maybe some products will be necessary in the future. However, when we go in the emergency mode, then we have a real emergency. So, for instance, these modalities start when there is a request of material or a request of products from the end user. In this case, the interface receives the order for the materials through the digital platform or also directly from the end user, and act promptly to inform the specific manufacturer to start ramp up the production, and also help the manufacturing company to build its cell, including logistic companies to help the delivery of the products and so on. And this is more or less the business model that we have seen that can be the most suited for our project. However, this is an open discussion. I mean, this is not the only business model that can work. And then, if you have a question, we can discuss later on the event. Yeah, I think that's all. And I have the slides attached here of Anna Nardi, so I can leave the floor to her. I mean, if I can remove my audio.
Good morning to everybody. I'm Anna and I'm the sales manager of Nardi Compressori. And thanks for everybody for inviting me and for have the chance to explain how we figure it out, let me say, the pandemic. Nardi Compressori is a manufacturing company. We produce piston compressors since 1965. And when the pandemic came, we decided to create and to modify an existing model of our compressor for figuring out this crisis. We produce oilless and also oil lubricated compressors. So usually we are divided in two sectors inside our production department. And so when the COVID came, we had a particular organization where the first step is ordering the electric motors, the shafts and the coils for assembling the engines in our production. And then the second step was to assemble the complete compressor, as you may see in this scheme, where we put the customization for each customer for all the compressors we produce. And then we assemble the final compressor with all the accessories like the pressure switch, the pressure reducer and pressure gauge. And then we pack all the goods and ship to our customers. So at the beginning, we have only one line for assembling the pump units for this particular compressor that we use for disinfecting the surfaces, and then other two lines for assembly the final product. Then we had, in general, other 3 lines dedicated to other production products. With the COVID, we decided to reconvert immediately our production, and we stopped the production of all the other models that we usually produce. And we focus only on the Sunny Air, which is a little oilless compressor for disinfecting the surfaces. So at during the pandemic, we reconvert our production, and we ask, let me say, an help to our supplier for assembling outside our production the engines. And so every morning we were receiving engines from our supplier already assembled, and then we dedicate 6 lines for assembly the final products. So we had the chance to ensure 600 unit production every day for figuring out the request from the market. And the lesson learned with the COVID pandemic was so important, because we understood that the most important thing is an agile management to identify the market opportunities, because without this sunny air, we for sure had a big crisis. Then we had a large and lean supplier network. All the suppliers were working because we were working with our sunny air, otherwise they had to shut down as the shutdown for COVID. We look for employees with high technical skills, and we for sure increase the stocks material, because the delivery for the raw material were so long, so we had to stock a lot of products, a lot of raw materials and components in our warehouse. So finally, the next slide, Alessandro, please. So finally, we understood that our strength is to be a medium enterprise. So we had the chance to immediately figure it out and reconvert our production to a new production mode. And so we were faster than the larger enterprises. So this COVID it was like a challenge for us, and we are so happy how we manage it. And that's all. If you have any question, thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for this testimony. As it was mentioned, there was also a lot of other company involved in the Reservist project, and we could really see the different way of tweaking the manufacturing line, or how it is complex according to the type of product to switch the line, but also, as you say, as it could be an opportunity also during crisis, to have this opportunity to produce differently and to feel also like a responsibility a sense for belonging to such a network that is active and can contribute in complex contexts. So that was all the presentation for the Reservist project. Now I want just to introduce before the cluster prepare. I'm sharing the screen again before the other presentation. So when we were looking at the different contexts and projects happening in parallel of the Reservist project, we have been discovering the existence of the cluster prepare. Prepare is for preparedness and response for emergency situation in Europe, and it's a 10 EU-funded project on H2020 program that unites in the form of cluster to tackle the specific challenge, looking at preparedness and response phase of crisis management, and the idea was to collect the results of this project and to make people work together to achieve stronger results and greater impact, and maybe to understand together what could be the next step. So our idea was to make this event also to connect with this cluster and to be informed of what the other projects are doing. So this is why now we will have also two small presentations from two projects, which are the project Versatile and Respect, that you can see here at on the middle of the screen. As you can see, there is also other projects that are really interesting to look at. There are projects that are already finished, others that are still happening. So now I will let the floor to present the Versatile project. And I will introduce Andrea Emery, that you will
Emery,
present. Yeah, thanks for joining, and also in replacement for your colleague Robert Lovaz. So I invite you, if you have a presentation, to share the screen and present yourself. Thanks.
Can you see it?
Yes, we did.
Okay, okay. So thank you very much. I really joined last minute, but I try to do my best to summarize our project. My name is Andrea Emery. I'm project manager and consultant at Innomine, which is a Hungarian DIH, and Innomine is a partner of Hungarian artificial intelligence EDIH. We are working mainly with digital transformation, smart manufacturing, innovation management since 2010, and present in most of the EU countries. And actually, we are participating in many Horizon Europe projects. Or expertise lie in communication, dissemination, exploitation, ecosystem discovery and assessment, business model creation. And we have access to the SMEs since we are working with many of the SMEs, not only in Hungary, but in our region as well, supporting them in digitalization, internationalization, and so on. And we like very much the highly complex problems. So I think that's how we got to co-versatile, because it was really a complex situation and really challenging for the European countries. And everybody remembers all of those crazy days of 2020 when the pandemic hit Europe, closed factories, disruption of supply chain, shortage of personal protective equipment, and respirators was the common problem of all of the countries. And this new crisis situation was calling for new solutions. And these new solutions supposed to be provided in the frame with the help and funding of the EU coronavirus call, which was aiming the repurposing of manufacturing for vital medical supplies and equipment. And it was 4 projects, as you mentioned, were working in one cluster. So co-versatile was also winning of this fund, this call, and it was working on adaptive and resilient production and supply chain methods and solution for urgent need of vital medical equipments. So actually what we were focusing on the spray systems, personal protection equipment such as silicone masks, and also the respirators or ventilators. And these were the most burning needs, because lives were in stake, but also at the same time it was very important to support the manufacturing industries to be resilient, adaptive, agile in such a crisis situation. And that's how co-versatile was composed. So just several facts about the project. It was coordinated by Stucky, Robert Lovaz, who's supposed to be here. Unfortunately, he's sick. He's working for Stucky, the Institute for Computer Science and Control in Hungary, and other 21 members from several countries were joining to solve this problem. And actually, I mentioned that not only the equipment was important, but also the help of the manufacturers society. This consortia brought together expertise from different fields, science, business, etc. And the basic idea was to address the most burning issues of the equipments which I mentioned. And actually, the issues were not only the equipment itself, but also technological, operational, regulatory, workforce related. And somehow this project wanted to tackle these problems as well. And our ambition was to bring together the knowledge of those experts from 21 countries. And whatever we developed, we wanted to summarize and making available. And the vehicle for this, that was the digital technopole, where all of the learnings, the trainings, and the yields of the project was summarized. And same time as we were using on the reusable mask disinfection spray and ventilator, and also supply chain issues and automation for manufacturing. So during this work, we generated all of the trainings and the materials, consultancy background, what is needed for the manufacturers. And actually it was summarized in the digital technopole and made available for the manufacturers. So that's why we could help tackle both the issues, to provide the equipment and also provide the help for those manufacturers who are involved in the crisis situation, actually all of them. So what was the achievement of the project? It was at the end of the project a machine developed for mass production, which was producing reusable silicone mask. And the production time was really shortened, and a new type of equipment is available in case the crisis needs it again. The other thing was the electrostatic disinfection, which was improved significantly in performance, and also the cost reduction was here significant. The automated the resilient automation for manufacturing methodology has been worked out, which was able to help double the assembly capacity of a given manufacturing line. And last but not least, the ramp-up production of the ventilators was also very successful. So actually, the ventilator was developed by DEMCON. They were bringing this knowledge and tool into the consortia. And let me share this success story, because I think it's really important to know that what results we could bring together. So the DEMCON was working on the ventilators, and as pandemic was burning out, they dropped everything, literally, as they told the story that all of the company was really dropping all of the other production or sales related issue. Everything was dropped. Everybody was focusing on the ventilator. And with this rush work, they managed to put together a solution, a ventilator solution in 2 months, which was a minimum viable product. It was not so fancy, maybe, it was not so handy, maybe, but it was doing its job and saving lives. So instead of 2 years of product development, they managed to put together a product in 2 months, which was eligible already for working in the hospitals. And obviously, during the project, they had the chance to develop it, refine it, etc. But it was very important that they were really quickly putting together the product and starting the production in 3 months. So how successful this product was, it reflects the situation which was observable in China this year. In January, you know from the news that the pandemic was getting really bad in China in this year. And actually, DEMCON managed to sell this product in large quantity to the Chinese market. So back to the deliverables of the project. So beyond the products which I just mentioned, it was also important the knowledge base, the know-how, what we developed during the project, which was related to the manufacturing adoption, the product and process certification, reconfiguration of the industrial supply chain, and also the workforce ramp up or repurposing. So these were the major area which we were done. And all of the knowledge I mentioned it was important that all of this knowledge which was compiled during the project supposed to made available for the manufacturers. And Digital Technopole, actually it's a platform or a web-based Agora, let's say, which is offering all of the services developed during the project, and also able to host further services related to the topic which we are discussing now. So Digital Technopole actually is a single entry point that provides a one-stop shop for tools, knowledge, software, etc. And those which can help SMEs to build resilience and agility in these turbulent times. And unfortunately, we see that the pandemic was not the only one when we really need the agility. So actually this platform is offering consultancy services, courses, applications, and also facilitating community matches and interactions. Our project closed in March. So we are kind of done. Innomine is working as the operator of the Digital Technopole in the forthcoming years. If you have any question, please let me know. And that's all what I wanted to share with you.
Thanks a lot, Andrea, for sharing. I think it's interesting that Reservist project and Conversatai really look at what has been done and each other. There is really a lot of similarity in terms of product and also in terms of, I think the journey we have been doing in the 2 years is we can learn a lot from each other. So thanks a lot. And also maybe to think about the future. So we will move to the other project that is present today. So I will invite Constance Brunner to talk about the risk pack. So this one is shifting a bit from the industry manufacturing side to more asking resilience and the role of civil society in preparedness. So Constance, are you here? Can you share your screen? And maybe you have 5-10 minutes to present the projects.
Okay, I hope that will fit. I will share my screen, and thank you for the introduction, because you really pointed it out that it's a little bit shifting, but it's also suitable, I think, for this webinar. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yes, first, my name is Constance Brunner, representing the German NGO ISA Germany, and I was asked to report about our work on pandemic. As mentioned, not in a medical aspect, but with a focus on risk communication within the RISPEC project. First of all, a few words about myself, our organization, ISA Germany, and the RISPEC project itself. I'm a trained specialist nurse for anesthesia and intensive care, worked 15 years at the Charité University Hospital in Berlin, and now work for ISA Germany. And in addition, I'm studying international emergency and disaster relief. ISA Germany stands for International Search and Rescue and is an association of rescue specialists, mainly from professional and voluntary fire brigades, and also clinical doctors and nursing staff, as well as experts from the fields of logistics and management. Founded in 2003, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and ISA is financed exclusively through donations and funding partnerships. And our members go on disaster missions on voluntary base, for example, after earthquakes, like currently we were in Turkey, or after flood disasters, and they take over the search for missing persons with professional rescue dogs, or also go on so-called COVID-19 missions since the onset of the pandemic. So we have had great success in supporting countries like Armenia and Namibia within the first and second wave. And we also contribute our experience and on a scientific level, which is why ISA Germany is leading a global pandemic case study within the RiskPact project. Let me shortly introduce you into the RiskPact project, which is also funded by the EU Horizon 2020 program. RiskPact stands for Integrating Risk Perception and Action to Enhance Civil Protection and Citizen Interaction. It's a very long name. And the so-called RPAC is the gap between risk perception and action. And yes, using case study, this project aims to identify and close the gaps between the population and the civil protection authorities, for example, during a pandemic or other disasters. And the aim is to improve the resilience of societies from the perspective of both citizens and responsible authorities in the event of a pandemic. So the expected result from the RiskPact project is the so-called RiskPact that will include a framework and methodology. I have a problem with that word. I'm sorry for that. For understanding and closing the risk perception action gap, and it should also include a collection of international best practices, practical solution based on new forms of digital and community data, and training materials and knowledge sharing as well. Here you can see the RiskPact or the project partners from RiskPact. We have 20 partners with it. And as a part of the pandemic case study, we looked at different country strategies to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, with a particular focus on digital contact tracking through the use of tracing or tracking apps. So that means as a first step, we looked at the question, do tracing or tracking apps and other technology applications contribute to containment and control of the COVID-19 pandemic? And we looked at the global use of these applications using different national examples with different political and cultural contexts, the countries Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, Australia, Israel, Germany, Italy, UK, and Brazil. And we have shed a light on the factors influencing the acceptance of different pandemic containment measures, in particular the willingness to use tracking apps or other technologies. The fundamental influencing factors include, as mentioned, political and cultural context. So do you have restrictive systems, or is it a voluntary application? is there any previous experience in dealing with disease outbreaks, and is there are there technologies available, and do people have access to them and other media, for examples? At the same time, we looked at and compared the following criteria of the different countries. Mainly the COVID-19 history and other relevant country information, so previous experience with pandemics and relevant health system characteristics. Also, how is the internet mobile coverage, if available, and how are the countries organized, centrally or federalistic, and other relevant population characteristics. The conclusions that emerged from this were, in summary, the country examples, especially from Asia, as mentioned, Japan, Singapore, or Taiwan, show that here the experience with, for example, SARS, to their advantage, and that the use of digital technologies is an effective, or were an effective addition to infection control. So that's the answer to the initial questions if tracking apps contribute to containment control of the corona pandemic. On the other hand, other countries like Germany or especially Italy did not have the same wealth of experience, but digital applications have also been able to help with interruption or reduction of contagion. In some countries, however, a digital strategy also means limiting individuals' rights of individuals to privacy, often in combination with restrictive policies. And for a tracking app to be successful, it must be ensured that the personal data is protected, and that the application is voluntary, so that the people trust it. In a second step, we revisited these factors and tried to identify existing gaps in risk perception and deficits in information processing. At the same time, it was important to discuss optimization proposals that could facilitate and strengthen the interaction between civil protection authorities and the population, as well as the ability to act in the event of a pandemic. Another goal is and was to be able to positively influence the willingness to use various technologies and to develop recommendations and training materials for better pandemic management while adhering to data protection principles. In the conclusion, we came back to the influencing factors already mentioned at the beginning, and which continue to accompany and shape the third phase of our investigation.
Can you just finish in 1 minute, Constance?
Yes, okay. So let's jump a little bit further. So regarding to risk communication and in conclusion, successful risk communication should generally be or include the following points you can see on the slide. And yes, I think it's in summary, these are the points that could probably be included in a guidebook for successful risk communication and preparedness. And the challenge is now to use the lessons learned and to implement them in disaster response plans to be prepared in the future. Thank you. Ooh, sorry. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Constance, for presenting the this project, RISPAC. I will invite all the participants now on the call. We will have not so much time for the discussion because we have really a rich presentation. I think for initiating the presentation, the discussion, I think as we go through the journey of the event, we went through the policy context, industry context, and now we have some overview also on how technology can involve also and reinforce the link with citizen and maybe local authority. Also mentioning that inside the Reservist project, and I think in general, from where I come from, the Maker movement, we also saw a lot of engagement from the citizen in the fabrication stage. So there is many forms of engagement that could be possible from citizen in terms of crisis. And there is some really nice result to look at in different places for that. Maybe to start the discussion, maybe we could, I don't know if Veronique and Joanna, you are still here. We would like maybe to start by asking you a bit your feeling about all these projects. We know that there is a lot of different projects now, and it's the research side. There is a network of two network of manufacturers that were presented that could act a bit differently also as provider or as part of the supply chain that could be present in the when there is a crisis at the European context. Can you have some reaction, advices? Also just to mention that one of the challenges we have in the Reservist project is to find the right interlocutor for making it possible. So it's a bit navigating with local and European bodies. So yeah, if you can just react briefly on that. Veronique or Joanna, I don't know which one feel more comfortable with.
I can maybe start, and if fine with Veronique, and then I give the floor to her. Thank you very much for all the presentations. I found them very interesting, all the initiatives. I wanted to concentrate for a moment on the stockpiles, because as under rescue we are creating stockpiles, and during the presentation I saw a few references. So I think many of the initiatives presented are very interesting and are also an alternative to stockpiles, because now after the pandemic, as mentioned in one of the presentation, many of the countries are dealing with excessive stocks, which of course is a problem. For when we look at stocks, we really try to look at different rotation strategies and possibilities how not to waste. But I found it very interesting, the projects where you can have some alternatives. So on top of some stocks, you could have this quick production lines. Yes, I found that very interesting from my side. I don't know, Veronique.
I think, thank you very much. Yeah, I can add. I think the presentation, the Reservist project, is exactly what also we, Hera, is a lot in different units thinking about how to be able to scale up production in time of crisis, because this is a challenge, and also, I mean, with the vulnerabilities of the supply chains shown in during COVID-19, how to avoid this. I think it's still in construction, so it's we are going to further. There are studies going on, and we are going to further develop all this field. But I think you tackled, I mean, many challenges you mentioned yeah, that are the real challenges from preparedness to crisis mode, you know, to just this kind of upscale. Right now we have focused on vaccine upscaling, but I think there are also discussions on the other medical countermeasures. Thank you.
Thanks for your direct feedback. And it's true that it's really interesting, this nuance between stockpiling and production capacity. Frederic, you were mentioning a bit this also as an advantage for the reservist network.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about maybe the lesson learned from the project?
Maybe what I would like to add here with our concept, and I can imagine that maybe Coverta also facing the same problems, is how to keep this concept alive, because we can of course focus on capacity, but still we need some stock keeping to start up the production, but also to stay prepared in the future. Of course, it's we still need the engagement of the industry, and we don't know when the next crisis will happen. Hopefully never again, but still they have to be prepared. So they have kind of reservist status, let's say, like in the army, you also have some reservists, but still, you have to foresee some training to check the lines, make sure that there is a starting stock available. And it's very difficult for us to find a good model to keep this alive, because there's no interest for the next 10 years in this. We are a bit afraid that we are losing the engagement of the industry. Also, in normal situations, they cannot compete. So if there's a procurement, they cannot compete with that. So we were thinking maybe we can offer it as kind of insurance, so that you pay for the capacity beforehand, but then they know, okay, we can keep this going. But it's really difficult at this moment to find a good solution to keep this alive. And maybe we have to think of it a little bit more, maybe together with the EC, with other companies, because I can say, for instance, at the moment, I think if we have now to say, okay, we can offer face masks, they're too much expensive compared to the ones produced outside Europe. But still, if everybody is stopping or don't have the capacity anymore to make them, you have the same situation as before COVID. And it's really difficult to make that exercise and to find a good solution to make it sustainable. So that's a bit that we are still struggling with in the Reservist. And we hope to find a good solution to make sure that we can still offer it. Of course, we do have the know-how, we know how to produce it, but still, to do the maintenance and to be in standby mode also needs some effort from the industry, of course.
Yes, and as we mentioned a bit also before, this capacity to react and to produce during a crisis is super related to the capacity to locally produce generally in Europe, and to have this local supply chain that could help to the autonomy of Europe, and to have less dependence, and also to be more agile, flexible, as Anna was mentioning before. So this is a real challenge, and I think there is a lot of things happening and projects happening at European scale right now to go on that direction. So I don't know if anyone have other comments or want to ask some question to the speaker. I see that there is other participant from the Reservist project, maybe that can ask some question. And also I wanted to thank some other project of the cluster Prepare. That, for instance, there is the project No Fear, and Luca Leonardi is here. So thanks a lot for joining. if there is no question, maybe just to end, I would like to ask two of you to reflect on what would be the next action we can do together. Yeah, it's a big question, but if you have, we saw there is a lot of things to push in terms of research and development. There is also a lot of possibilities for making links between the network, whatever the network, between manufacturer and certifier, like a supplier, and also over form of technology or instruments at the policy level. So maybe I can ask the project. I don't know, for instance, I don't know if you're still here, Andrea. I'm quite interested maybe to see a bit more as the co-versatile project is handing as the Reservist project. Have you decided on any new action that could be done on the next step?
Actually, as the consortia, we are focusing now on the digital technopole to give some dynamics to this with continuous advertisement, actually recruitment of the users from the manufacturers, and also we are working on doing some synergies with related platforms, because as I mentioned, the crisis is not over, unfortunately, or if one is over, the next is coming. So these knowledges are really important for the manufacturers. And even if we do not have the crisis, but just the business is so quickly changing that such a resilience, which could be resilience building, which could be supported by the digital technopole, is really important for the SMEs. So this is how we manage after the project, because we already closed the project, how we manage to have some spillover effect in the future.
Great. I think also we are convinced that it would be interesting to keep connected with this all these projects with the cluster Prepare, so to really see what are the common elements and the synergy, so we can really push this idea of preparedness inside the manufacturing concept at another layer. I will just share with you again some slide to conclude. So just it is some notes that we were taking during the presentation and when we were preparing the event. If we have some lesson learned to share about preparedness, I think what we listen, it's that we can, it's important to anticipate before the crisis. There is the possibility to use forecasting and this kind of technology to really help to best manage the production. There is a challenge with the stock. It's important to have stock and to reach the stock, but also it's important not to have to stop and to waste products. So it's important to think about the production capacity and this idea of fast manufacturing to react and to help company to think about what other type of production that can make, how they can contribute to other type of production. It's really key for our network. Some future challenge we were discussing also inside the Reservist project, and that appear clearly here, for instance, between co-versatile project and the Reservist, there is the importance of the platform for cooperation between the different partners. We have seen with the inside the policy context that it's really important to develop a clear cooperation policy across scale. So not opening everything from the Europe, but also working locally with the national agency and more regional bodies to see how company can procure and can be the supplier of such territory. And there is also a topic that we are tackling, and we would like to explore more with all of you, is the importance of having access to the fabrication techniques and production facilities. It's important to, when we look at crisis, disaster management, humanitarian response, to think also about the environmental impact that we do, with also the type of product that we have. And the Reservist project is a chance to explore new form, also new techniques. For instance, we have been exploring the reuse mask to try to reduce the impact of plastics. It's important to keep this research really active and to have this space for collectively envisioning the future response that we can do to be better prepared and better more resilience. Last thing I wanted to share with you before thanking all the partners is that we have the next step of the Reservist project. If you want to know more about the project, there will be the release of an open resource series that this webinar is part of, where we have different video and content on 4 areas: resilience and emergency situation, repurposing product manufacturing line, certification, open source and distributed platform, stakeholder network, and business models. So different videos. There is also a coming book named Emerging Reservist Culture, which is exploring different scenario of crisis, and also opening the work that has been done in Reservist to other ecosystem, particularly the work that has been done inside the maker movement, not only in Europe, but also internationally, in collaboration with different NGOs. So there will be really nice content and visual content to read, that it will be released in May. And we have our final event that is coming up soon. It's the 12th of May in the Netherlands. So named Medical Protection, Innovation in Production and Respiratory Protection. So it's part of the 10th European Conference on Protective Clothing. Yes, it was a pleasure to host you. I hope the content was really important and interesting for you. We will stop recording now. I really thank all the speakers and hope we can have other events where we share between each other what we have been doing.
And maybe Marion, just to add, during or just after the final event, there's also the possibility to visit our partner Hospitainer. And there you can see how they can rapidly deploy a complete hospital at a region where an emergency happened. So I also invite you to visit them if you are thinking going to our final event. So
yes, and if you are interested, do not hesitate to contact us.
Thank you, Marion, for the organization of the whole event.
Thanks a lot.
Also from my side, thank you very much for